Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafi rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Honorable Chair and other dignitaries on dais and off the dais. In this auspicious occasion, I wish to present a paper on Imam Bediuzzaman, Nursi and Moulana Abul Kalam Azad, a comparative study on the Reformist movement. Before me, my friend discussed or present a paper on the educational reforms of Moulana Abul Kalam Azad and Imam Nursi. Now I want to present about the Reformist movement and the method of reformation propounded by Imam Nursi and Moulana Abul Kalam Azad. Our chair already pointed out that there are a lot of similarities between Moulana Abul Kalam Azad and Sayyid Nursi. First of all, there was contemporary scholars, theologians and Islamic researchers, and Moulana Abul Kalam Azad his magnum opus was a Quranic exegesis, Tarjuma al-Quran, and the Risale-i-Nur was the magnum opus written by the Imam Nursi. And both scholars aimed, their primary aim was to revive the Muslim community and reform all problems and obstacles standing in front of the development of Muslim Ummah or Muslim society. So the late 19th century and the early 20th century show a lot of reformist movement in world, and that was the important time which showed the turning point in the history of world. Many nations in the world were seeking for their independence, and many nations in Middle East were seeking for their existence in front of the secular movement of Europe and secularization of Europe. So we know that Imam Nursi in Turkey faced an utterly different situation than that of the Moulana Abul Kalam Azad. Imam Nursi faced such a situation in Turkey that in that time Turkey was severely engrossed by the secularist thought of Europe. And in India, when Abul Kalam Azad came as the forerunner of the Muslim society, India was in the serious movement for their independence, and this both situation was very different. However, we could simply find out some accidental similarities among their thoughts, ideology, activism, especially on their reformist spirits. As you all know, the details or the biographical sketch of Imam Nursi is well known to you all, and that is why I don't want to explain about that. But the Imam Moulana Abul Kalam Azad, he was born on Makkah and studied and acquired a lot of religious studies and was well learned on Islamic knowledge. And after that he came to India, and we can find two phases for his whole life. One was from 1906 to 1920. In this time, Moulana Abul Kalam Azad explained, or he put forward or propounded a utterly different ideology that he was propounded after the 1920s. In that time, in the first phase, he was a Muslim fundamentalist, and in this time he argued for a Muslim country or for a Muslim constitution in India. And after that, after 1920, he was utterly changed and he began to argue for the Hindu-Muslim unity, and even he never allowed to part this country into two nations as Pakistan and India. If we explore how they both find their way of activism and reformation, we will be convinced that basically Sayyid Nursi stimulated faith movement concentrating on the revival of Islam and Muslim society in modernized post-Kemalian Turkey, and that has played a vital role in his influence and creative renaissance of Islam in Turkey as we see now, and the movement influenced the young people as it has millions of followers worldwide. At first, Imam Nursi analyzed the problems of Muslim society, and he found that despair and death of truthfulness, love for enmity, despotism, and limiting efforts of what is personally beneficial are some of these diseases. And Bediuzzaman Sayyid Nursi believed that his responsibility was to serve community on the perspective of belief. That is why he selected a faith movement to revive the Muslim community in Turkey. And the problem was related to the faith. So he understood that the solution should be started. The problem is starting from every person, and then to family, and then to society, and then to the nation. So he started his movement from each person. So he began to influence every person, and then family, and then society, and then nation. And he put forward solutions for all this problem, and he said, the solution is our hope and truthfulness, love, justice, brotherhood, and consultation. In contrary, Azad started his career as a politician. First of all, he started his career as a writer in Urdu and English, and he proposed or put forward many solutions for the problems of Muslim Ummah. And in that time he was a fundamentalist, as we said before. In all his early writings, Azad emphasized an Islamic way to the independence and superiority for Muslims over the followers of other religions. He made an attempt to merge politics to religion, and he wrote in his Al-Hilal that we have developed our political thinking from religion. We believe that every thought which draws inspiration from any institution, including politics other than the Quran, is kufr, the infidelity. According to Abul Kalam Azad, basically as he was a politician, Azad stirred up a big challenge against imperial and colonial power and played a significant role until the religious classes for prime goal of Indian independence movement. Even though he always made an intellectual attempt to clarify his argument on basis of Quran and Hadith. And it is obvious that education was most concerned issue about both the Imam Nursi and Abul Kalam Azad. Imam Nursi believed that the significance of Islam on the scientifically matured era should be induced on the support of modern science and logic. And the very religious education completely barred of material education could be insufficient. The Master Nursi exposed most apt and creative solution for this great concern by planning an educational system in which the religious and material education combined in practical way, and advocated teaching religious science in secular school and modern science in religious school, as he wrote in his magnum opus Risale-e-Nur. And Sayyid Nursi already understood that the Turkish community, which had completely engrossed by the secularist way of life stimulated by Europe, could be more effectively fascinated to the religious awareness by step by step, and therefore he focused on social order and believed on gradual change, and it could have perpetual influence on society. That is why he did not support an organizational movement or jihad. So everyone, either man or woman, was very important in his mission, and that is why he allotted a significant position for womenfolk, as he promoted religious awareness, mutual trust, respect and loyal love between every members to form a genuine family. On the case of women, he especially stressed on the firm religious sense and piousness for a good Muslim woman, because he believed that pious woman only could shape an ideal family. As a reformist, Moulana Azad spread his ideology through his speeches and writings and could not find creative way to make it practical in society successfully and attract a majority of followers. Moulana Azad focused on the society rather than the individual and family done by the Nursi. Moulana Azad learned religion and its all aspects and formed all overview on each and every issues. For the revival of knowledge and reformation of society, Azad tried to wipe out all communal and traditional equations from the society and to purify the essence of society's religion. Along through the vast and wide reading, he was deeply influenced by the modernist thoughts of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Jamaluddin Afghani and Sheikh Abdu, and he tried to discuss and explain the Islamic ideology and notion on the modern perspective. After a long time research and study, Moulana Azad dramatically undergone for a drastic change in his concept and renewed his faith and acquired a distinguished personality, and Azad emerged as a committed Muslim and creative reformist with a practical method on reviving society. And according to Bediuzzaman Sayyid Nursi, the first and foremost thing to do was to correct the misunderstanding about Islam, Muslim and belief. Sayyid Nursi and his students undertook this duty in most proper way. Turkey has big trace on Islamic history and had the majority of Muslims. So Imam Nursi believed that the justice and Sharia could be realized through the constitution, because all problems in his time were either directly or indirectly connected to the Western secularist influence, and he believed that it is the only solution for such problems. Along his work, Sayyid Nursi celebrated the advantages of Sharia, but all this intended to preserve religious laws and notions in private life. So it is very obvious that the Risale-e-Nur was not a political movement, but was an unorganized mission to reform and revive the Muslim community in all cases. The followers of this movement recognized Imam Bediuzzaman Nursi as their spiritual guide and ustad, the master and teacher, and they spare no effort to effectively spread these thoughts and ideology in its perfect. Non-violence was the main factor of the secular nationalism Azad put forward. He promoted dialogue among faiths with the spirit of peace, but he did not believe non-violence as the article of the religion, but only as the matter of policy. He severely opposed the use of arms for religious needs, as the fundamentals of every religion is same, the humanism and peace. However, Azad never demanded for Sharia-based government or Sharia law for Muslims in India. Even he was not ready to support special nation for Muslims, and he vehemently opposed that, and he declared the safe for the Muslim Ummah in subcontinent is Indian secularist government, which would consider all the religious passion of all people. Azad explained that the secularism was not in confining religion to observance of certain ritual within home, but in religion inspiring followers to live a righteous path and seeking guidance of Almighty in understanding what that right path is. Therefore, every human being has to struggle to become a better follower of their respective religion, and Moulana Azad wanted to codify Islamic law and reform Islamic law, but he breathed his last before undertaking this task. Many Muslim thinkers Imam Nursi led a life of religious scholar and spiritual leader by training people and strengthening their belief and spirituality. Even though he was an expert in material knowledge and promoted it, he never tried to have direct interference in politics. Even he did not permit his students to challenge the government. Sayyid Nursi was not an intolerant and narrow-minded Islamist who basically argued only for the legacy of Islamic civilization and fervently opposed all that oriented to the West. On the contrary, he stimulated to take Western technology, which is very important to preserve renewal of Muslim society and to keep it progressing, and did his best to make his followers convinced with his reality. Okay. So let me conclude. Bediuzzaman Sayyid Nursi and Moulana Abul Kalam Azad, two Muslim intellectual scholars lived of early 20th century, had contributed a lot to the social, political and educational advancement of Muslim Ummah with religious notion. The reformist thoughts and methodology both extended were different as the political and geographical condition both had to face. Imam Nursi had to face a nation of Muslim majority while the Moulana Azad had to meet a nation where his community was minority. On the eve of emerging Sayyid Nursi, Turkish people were severely engrossed to the Western secularism, culture and philosophy, and the religion was suffocating under the Kemalian ideology. So, insisting on religious awareness, he gradually made an obvious guidance for Muslims, and he started his mission from each and every person, then family, then society, and at last to the nation. On contrary, in case of Moulana Azad, his minority community had felt a backwardness in all cases. The Muslim community in India were loyal and extremely connected to the religion, but the system they followed was thoroughly fulfilled with baseless traditions, customs and rituals. And the other problems affected them was the fervent rejection of lack of material education. Moulana Azad analyzed the problems and he tried to modify the essence of Islam out of all impurities, but he challenged and severely criticized by orthodox ulama in India, and he fervently opposed the culture and custom that the Indian Muslim and ulama practiced for long years. Now I conclude my presentation. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.